The city held its breath. Even the pigeons seemed slower to take flight, as if feeling the weight of the morning upon their wings. Uruk, this ancient city, shimmered in the faint dawn light, a secret hidden in its heart. And here was its ruler, seated not on a throne of gold, but on the legacy of wars and fateful gambles. With every movement, the memories of power and its price whisper from the very reeds. And now, the symbol of authority, the scent of oil and cedar smoke, a fragrance that, before any words were spoken, warned the king. Today is not a day like any other. Within the temple's heart, where candlelight wrestled with shadows, the high priest waited. His eyes looked as though they had stayed awake all night, watching the city's nightmares. The message of the stars was merciless. The sea above has grown cold, the water dwindles. And these words were a stone in the king's chest. The priest's suggestion was an ancient and terrifying solution. We must make a sacrifice. But what sacrifice? And at what cost? In the hall of rule, hard, brutal facts were laid bare, one after another. The barley ration was cut. Storehouses stood empty. Fleets had vanished. This was no place for dreams. It was a place of numbers and impending famine.
The harvest yields are recorded accurately. This is very precise work. You have done well, boy.
The sound of a hammer on stone drew the king to the market. To a goldsmith who had no materials, no time, and a broken finger, he showed the statue of the guardian god, a god that was itself cracked. If the gods cannot be remade, what happens to people's faith? And then the sound of the dry earth, the sound of a farmer, his hands chapped, pointing toward the dry ditch. If the water doesn't come, we have no harvest. If there is no harvest, we will have none either. Simple and unvarnished, a truth rising from the very soil. From distant lands, a merchant came with a tempting offer, a shining lapis bead in exchange for a dangerous decision, salvation or betrayal. Sometimes, the two are so intertwined they become impossible to tell apart. But the very pillars of the city were cracking. The weary workers, the hands that built the city, now had no strength left to build. They shouted a threat that came from within. Half of us want to leave. And just when you thought the crisis had peaked, a new threat arrives. Bandits laying in ambush. If the northern road falls, the city's lifeblood will be cut. And now, the king stood alone under a starry sky. All of Uruk rested in his palms. The farmer's plea, the laborer's cry, the soldier's map, the merchant's deal, and the priest's warning. Tomorrow he must decide which wound to bind first, which promise to keep, and which secret to unveil. The beginning of the city's other days is near,